It's July, and the Auburn Tigers pick up a former 5-star in the transfer portal. Okay.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Joining us, Matt Galatson, the new host of Locked On Aggies, has hit the ground running. He drops a show, and I say, Matt, I need you to come on because Auburn lands former 5-star and former Texas A&M Aggie, Jacoby Mathews. And when you read everything about this guy, Matt, former 5-star, played a ton the 2 seasons that he played at Texas A&M, seemed to be a really solid contributor, not eligible last year, did the whole JUCO thing, and now he's back. Like, this seems like a high upside addition for the Tigers. What's the Texas A&M point of view on this?
Well, Jacoby Mathews was a big-time recruit coming in as part of that 2022 class, right? I mean, they had lots of top-of-the-line guys, Walter Nolan, Ruben Owens, Connor Wegman. You could go on and on down the list.
Yeah.
Shamar Turner, all these different guys a lot of them are now elsewhere. LT Overton's over there at Alabama, so Auburn's very familiar with him.
Sure.
But he was just another one of those casualties of that recruiting class that they couldn't really keep together. Walter Nolan had come out and said there was a lot of NIL stuff that went into the reason that a lot of these guys disbanded. And I think that's, I'm just speculating here, but I'm pretty sure that had a little bit something to do with what Jacoby Mathews had going on there as well, as for most of those guys. But hey, listen, it's a big time pickup for the Auburn Tigers. As far as I know, they need some safety help back there. And he's, as far as talent goes, man, he was one of the best out there that you could pick up, and it's a big time one for Auburn.
Yeah, there was some chatter about them picking up another transfer DB, like back when the spring window was going on, and then it just never really happened. I don't know if this has been in the works for a while. If so, like, I hadn't heard much chatter about it, if that's the case. But yeah, this kind of falls out of the sky. It's like, this is awesome, and this is a guy who can help you right away. I'm assuming he's aware, like DJ Durkin and him have a relationship. I'm assuming that there's overlap there. And so how quickly can he pick up this defense that he's been a part of in the past? I'm assuming that terminology is going to be similar. But I mean, he hit the ground running and played early at Texas A&M.
Yeah, absolutely. DJ Durkin was the defensive coordinator there when he was at Texas A&M.
Yep.
And over 2 seasons, as a true freshman, he had 25 tackles. He had 3 pass breakups. And he was kind of an up-and-coming part of that defense. And then going into his sophomore year, 42 tackles, 4 pass deflections, a pick. And, he was one of the guys that they were really, really excited about going forward into that defense for the future. And having DJ Durkin there at Auburn, he's going to pick things up extremely quickly. He was already in that system for 2 years. He knows, like you said, he knows the terminology. He knows where he's supposed to be on the field, where he's going to fit in, and all of those things. So I would be surprised. I mean, I know he's coming in July, so maybe he's going to have to, sort of work his way in and kind of figure out his place there. But I would be surprised, Zach, if by, late September, early October at the latest, that he's not a starter and a big-time contributor on that defense.
Yeah, Auburn's defensive backroom is one of the better ones in the SEC, in my opinion. And so to add him, I mean, just the versatility. I mean, he played, just looking at his snap count on PFF, like he played in a bunch of different roles, which is exciting. And so it's almost like, even if he's not a starter, like you said early in the season, maybe he's a guy who's familiar with Durkin's system that could kind of be a fill-in until he kind of gets fully comfortable. I don't really see a whole lot of downside to this. The only downside when you look at this, guys, okay, he wasn't eligible last year. When that news broke from the Texas A&M side, I'm asking you to think back, I mean, years at this point. It's not like this just happened, but when he left the team and was uneligible, like it seemed like grades is a big part of it. And I read somewhere like, class attendance. And so he comes out and says, hey, that's not a problem anymore. I'm good to go. And, great. That seems pretty fixable. What was the mood, the thought, the reaction as best as you can remember from the Texas A&M side when Jacoby Mathews was no longer able to play for the Aggies?
Well, I mean, obviously it was a major blow, right? I mean, this is a guy that they had really high hopes for. He was one of their top recruits, and it was unfortunate the way that whole situation folded out. I think that, under the Jimbo Fisher regime at Texas A&M, you had a lot of these kinds of issues with player discipline, and there was multiple arrests on that team. There was a lot of other issues. There was grade issues. There was all kinds of stuff. And I think that he probably just kind of fell into the mold a little bit, and got sort of influenced by that culture. As a young kid, that's not, necessarily an outrageous thing to happen. I mean, I remember when I was 18, 19 years old, I was, I was super, influenceable at that age.
Yeah. So. And imagine all the money if you had all that money at 18 years old. Like, I can't imagine what these kids are going through.
Yeah, it's kind of a culture shock for them to come from being in high school to all of a sudden you're expected to make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars with the NIL and all that stuff. So I think that he probably just had some maturing to do. I don't remember any, disciplinary issues off the top of my head that are a cause for concern for Auburn or for him going forward. I think he just needed to get his priorities in order. It sounds like he did just that. So I think he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, I mean, what a cool opportunity for him to get a second chance, and hopefully he makes the most of it. Matt, I want to ask you your thoughts when Auburn heads to Texas A&M on September 27th. What could be at stake in that game? That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel's America's #1 sportsbook, and summer sports are in full swing. And whether you're all about baseball under the lights or golf on the green or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel's the best way to make every game even more exciting. The two lines that I keep talking about on the show over and over and over again because they're important. Auburn's futures, when you look at their win total, still at 7.5. And then, obviously, the season opener against Baylor. Auburn, a 2.5-point favorite. Friday night in Waco to start their season. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Our guest today, Matt Galatzan, host of Locked On Aggies, hanging out with us. I mean, every game is big in the SEC, right? But like from the Auburn perspective, when they go to Texas A&M, it'll be their second big road game in a row, and it'll be their third big road game already of the season, and it'll still be September with them opening up at Baylor. They'll go to Oklahoma the week before they go to College Station, then obviously at A&M. What do you anticipate being at stake for these two teams when they face off on September 27th?
Well, from an Auburn perspective, I'll kind of lean to your expertise there. But from my point of view, I think that given those early tests in the season, if let's say Auburn beats Baylor, but then they lose to Oklahoma, this Texas A&M game becomes a big swing game for them because if they lose 2 in a row in the SEC, you're already starting in a hole. The talk about Hugh Freeze maybe gets a little bit louder, and then you're like, okay, here we go again. We're not where we want to be. For Texas A&M, it's a little bit different of a situation because Mike Elko's in his second year. He's coming off an 8-4 campaign, and he had an opportunity to get Texas A&M into the SEC title game with a win over Texas. They're going to come into this game off the back of a road matchup at Notre Dame, which I think is going to be a real true test of what this team is capable of. Do they go into
have
Notre
a bye
Dame?
Week, though, right after Notre Dame? There's a bye week, and then they host Auburn. Is that right?
Yes, they do. So, but Notre Dame is going to be their game before Auburn. That's going to be a true test of who they are as a program. Have they, really taken a step forward in year 2 under Mike Elko, like everybody expects? They're returning a lot of guys. What do they look like in their first SEC matchup? Last year, Auburn beat them. It was a big blow to Texas A&M. They really wanted to win that game, and it was kind of an embarrassing showing on the defensive side of the ball. Can they fix those things with all these weapons like Cam Coleman and that Auburn has coming back on the offensive side of the ball? It's going to be a bit of a fulcrum point for Texas A&M because if they drop a game at home to Auburn early in the season, they are playing from behind for the rest of the year. I don't necessarily expect them to. I think that they're going to be I think they're, quite frankly, as I said on my my inaugural Locked On Aggie show yesterday, I think that they're being a little bit disrespected in these preseason rankings a little bit, because I think that they're returning a lot of talent. So we'll see how it goes. I do think that it is a critical game for both teams, though.
I agree. And it becomes even more critical if Auburn loses either to Baylor or Oklahoma. I 100% agree with you. I've been saying in those 3 games, Auburn needs to go 2-1. And so if they can do that, I do, however, think the 2 most likely wins are at Baylor and at Oklahoma. If I had to rank them, I would go at Baylor, at Oklahoma, then at Texas A&M. And so it doesn't sound like you'd get a whole lot of that. You'd give me much pushback with that based on how you answered that. But that's kind of where I'm at with it. I think a win would be huge for Auburn, especially with kind of the off the field chatter right now of happening with, recruiting falling apart and all of that. If you could put a few statement wins together throughout September, it'd be huge for Hugh Freeze.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Hugh Freeze in his, I think this is obviously the most critical year for Hugh Freeze at Auburn so far. I think he kind of needs I think he kind of needs to come out swinging and say, hey, this is the reason that I'm here. When he's been at Ole Miss in the past, he's won big games. He beat Alabama. So, he needs to prove that he can get back up there and start winning those types of football games. And A&M is going to be his, Baylor's a good team. Oklahoma's a good team. Texas A&M is going to be the best team that he plays up to that point. And if he can get a win there, I think it's going to be huge for him and for Auburn's future in the SEC this season.
Yeah, Marcel Reed is so intriguing, not only in this matchup, but just with Texas A&M's footing in the conference. I think he's extremely underrated, extremely undervalued. And they went out and got one of the best transfer receivers that they could get for him to throw to with Concepcion. Like, I think there's so much about Marcel Reed that's not being discussed. And, hopefully Auburn will have a plan ready to slow him down.
Yeah, Marcel Reed is a very dynamic talent. Last season he was a little bit inconsistent through the air, but he was also showing a lot of promise and a lot of upside. I thought he played great in the Auburn game. The defense didn't return the favor on their side of the ball.
Right. I mean, with the 4 overtimes, he scored. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he can really throw the football. He can really run the football, but we also have to remember that was his first year in the system. So now he's got an entire offseason as a starter under Colin Klein. He's got that new elite group of receivers that are coming in. Outside of Concepcion, you also got Mario Craver coming over from Texas A&M, an absolute speedster. You got Jonah Wilson from Houston, who's a big body guy who can win with contact. And you got Amari Niblack coming over from Texas, who's one of the most athletic tight ends in the SEC. And you're also returning Theo Melanostrum at tight end, who's another weapon. And they're returning Le'Veon Moss and Ruben Owens in the running game. That's all going to help him out. So I think he's going to have a huge year.
Yeah. No, watch out for the Aggies offensively. I like what they've done there for sure. Matt Galatzin, welcome to the network. How can people check out everything you've got going on?
Well, you can find me on Locked On Aggies every day, which is a new thing that I'm trying out here, and I'm really enjoying it so far after episode 1. But you can also find me on X at Matt Galatzin, and find me over at Texas A&M Aggies on SI, where I'm the publisher there as well, if you want some Texas A&M Aggies news.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, please like the video. Please subscribe. And if you're tuned in on audio, please subscribe there and leave us a review. Helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.